Monday of this week, October the 7th, marks the one-year anniversary of the horrific massacre of Israeli citizens by Hamas terrorists who invaded from Gaza, murdering men, women, and children with reckless abandon. They violently raped mothers in front of their own families, beheaded and burned babies in their own homes, executed over 1,200 Israelis in cold blood. Many of them were young adults attending a concert. They not only carried out the worst slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust, but they did it with a demonic pride and videotaped their evil deeds on cameras because instead of hoping no one would discover what barbarians they were, they wanted the world to know. Iran-funded Hamas terrorists boasted in phone calls to their families how many Jews they had personally murdered that day. They still hold hostages, including at least 4 Americans. Bet you haven't heard about them in a while. Since October the 7th of last year, Israel has been in a fight for its existence. Attacks from Hamas from Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Houthi rebels in Yemen have been relentless, and every bit of it financed by the Iranian regime, who had been mostly bankrupted by the Trump administration's sanctions, but were enriched from the very day Joe Biden took office because he removed all the sanctions. They went from near bankruptcy to being bankrolled, and the money that flooded their coffers, that's what was used to arm the terrorists and kill innocent civilians. Israel has no choice but to eradicate not just the arms and legs of the Iranian-funded proxies. They've got to take out the mothership of the Iranian regime once and for all, not only securing Israel's survival, but freeing the people of Iran who have suffered immeasurably for the past 45 years under these fanatical soldiers of Satan. Now, it's also been a week of devastation in the Carolinas and Georgia due to the apocalyptic damage caused by Hurricane Helene. Hundreds dead, hundreds more missing, and property damage into the hundreds of billions of dollars are the top line to a story that's ultimately going to leave entire cities destroyed, infrastructure such as roads and bridges washed away, and homes demolished. In what may be the most disgusting response imaginable, FEMA, which is a part of the Department of Homeland Security, announced that it wouldn't have enough funds to meet the needs. But they are finding enough money to transport, house, feed, provide medical assistance, and cash assistance to 20 million illegal immigrants. Now, some of these immigrants aren't even crossing the border. They're being flown into cities in the United States on government planes from their home country, and you paid for them. Let that sink in. 20 million people who have come into our country having broken the law are being taken care of. But the U.S. citizens who have paid taxes their entire lives are being told there won't be assistance for them. Well, thank God for organizations like Samaritan's Purse who mobilize within minutes of the tragedy and who will be there until the job is done. But what an embarrassment that those precious Americans are going to get more help from a Christian volunteer organization than from their own government, who instead spends our resources to accommodate those who shouldn't be here in the first place. You want to know a reason to rid ourselves of this current administration? Maybe because they're willing to spend hundreds of billions in Ukraine, allow 20 million illegals to enter the country and expects us to pay for it, and who let our nation's military veterans sleep under bridges and in cars. God help us if people vote for them to stay in power. Now, on a lighter note, gosh, we need one now, don't we? So on a lighter note, the one and only vice presidential debate before the election featuring Kamala Harris's pick, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and Donald Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Can I just say it really wasn't very pretty for Tim Walz, okay? Like Humpty Dumpty, all the king's horses and all the king's men, with help from the disgustingly biased so-called CBS moderators, couldn't put Walz back together again. They just couldn't. It was a tough night for him. It was so bad that even the Trump-hating New York Times had to admit that Vance dominated in the debate. Poor Governor Walz came across like Elmer Fudd without a shotgun. At one point, he admitted he lied about being in China's Tiananmen Square during the 1989 uprising, and he actually called himself on the debate stage a knucklehead. Hey, score 1 point for truth-telling right there. That was the one time he owned up. Now, the CBS anchors were insufferable, and they boasted that they had a mute button. You know what? They should have used it on themselves and shut up and let the candidates talk. Mute them. Just when you didn't think the media could be or act more biased, they jump up and shout, "Hey, watch us." Hey, folks, we're less than 30 days from the election. As Smokey the Bear says, only you can prevent forest fires. Well, only you and your vote can keep this country from collapsing from within.